what a lot of people care those days. They are willing, to give legs and arms to the customers, and so on. But they want to feel that they are well treated also by their employer and so on. And it all starts from there, because if you technically don't support your staff in that mission of finding, the why or finding the purpose of the company that you work for, which, by the way, should come, from the top. Okay. I mean, we're going to talk for sure about leadership as the leaders to make, their staff on the technical aspect when they are engaged in the hotel, because it's a tough work. Well, to have really a sense of belonging and working as a team also. Okay. It's not a lonely work. Okay. You work with guests, but we can only do it as a team. That's for sure.
What's up, hospitality? On today's episode, we are discussing how independent hoteliers can best recruit talent. If you're in the industry and you're struggling with recruiting, retaining, or employee satisfaction, so this podcast is for you. And I invited Matthieu Mioche from HRC Internationals, one of the biggest hospitality recruiting companies in the world, to share his experience and expertise about recruiting. And I'll tell you something, we discuss why and how hotels can best improve and becoming more attractive for young talent, but also what are the young talents looking for in the next opportunity, in the next job. And I'll give you a tip. Salary is not the number one concern. Also, in the end of the episode, we discuss the main skills and competencies for the future of hospitality. And this is something that you must learn. Hi everyone, my name is Mauricio Schüler, and you are listening to the Schulering Hub Talking Hospitality podcast. No more here from me. I just hope you enjoy the chat today and learn something new with Schulering. Enjoy the chat. I talk to you soon. Hello, Schulering, and welcome to another episode of the Schulering Hub Talking Hospitality podcast. Today, we are talking how independent hotels can best recruit talent. And for this, I invited Matthieu Mioche from HRC Internationals, one of the biggest recruiting companies in the world, to enlighten us with some ideas and discuss why it's been so hard to find good talent in the industry. Matthieu, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you for welcoming me. It's a pleasure being here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And in our community, we always say that humans come first. So before we get to all the problems and discussing a little bit about the recruiting talent, I want to learn more about you and how you end up in hospitality, how you end up in recruiting. We have a very good friend in common. So tell me, how was the young Matthieu? Was a naughty boy or was a good boy?
Well, I think you have to be a bit naughty to work in hospitality, because technically it's all about customers, and you have to be obviously slightly different than the others, I guess, to face, this magical world of hospitality. But yeah, it all started, as a chef, I graduated, obviously a couple of years ago in culinary as a chef, and then technically grown within the hospitality, because I realized that there were something a bit more than just, cooking, even though I think cooking is the root, of hospitality, because everything starts in the plates, that's what we say in France, so, it was an interesting journey, because I had the chance, I would say, to go through the main operation aspect of hospitality, tourism, and obviously, when I was in the Czech Republic, that's where, my journey in recruitment, all started. Yeah.
So you started here. Let's get to there, because you work with our friend here, Nadia Tien. And yes, by what I heard, you guys had an amazing experience together. So how it was working in the Czech Republic in the hospitality industry?
It was, I would say at the time, it was very, very exciting, especially, well, not only because the main fact that I had the pleasure to work for Naja, which is a very inspiring, hospitality professional by himself, but obviously joining an hotel and a company that was pretty new on the market. At the time was called Vienna International, now it's called Vienna House, and it was a brand new hotel and so on. So it was very exciting, and it was those years where technically Czech Republic was booming. Okay, I mean, hotels growing everywhere like mushrooms and so on. And I was happy to be welcomed to one of those mushrooms, which was the Andiels Hotel. So yeah, it was a great experience to just be a witness of a country that really opened arms, to the world of hospitality and brands, international brands, hotel brands, local hotels opening and welcoming millions and millions of people, So yeah, it was, we're talking about the years 2000 to 2008, really, when it was just magical, I would say.
It's so lucky to be here in Prague, like such a magical city. Of course, you are from France, that's a magical country, but like Prague, it gives that sense of awe when we get here for the first time. But how did you move then from hospitality to recruiting?
Well, I would say, I mean, it's through a fortunate chain of circumstances. I mean, I worked in tourism in Prague. I was doing incoming for French tour operators. Then I worked in congresses and events, and then worked in a hotel as a conference manager. And I don't know, I just felt, and I met, technically someone actually within the hotel. Okay, don't say that to Naja, and so on, who said, like, Matthieu, you're good with people, you're good, and you understand well, the word of hospitality. And they said, maybe it's a good moment for you to try recruitment, because indeed I joined a famous recruitment agency and brand called Grafton Recruitment at the time, and they had absolutely no division focus on hospitality and catering, which I was gladly offered, to develop and open from scratch. So it was like opening an hotel technically. And when someone gives you a challenge like that, regardless the challenge, and when you have the opportunity to start something from zero, well, you take it.
Yeah, that's true. That's an awesome example. That's so great. And now you are with HRC International. So what does HRC do?
Well, HRC International is a fascinating, I would say, career development agency, because what we do and our target and core of expertise is to help young graduates to develop themselves within the world of hospitality on the management and leadership level. And for that, we technically send them on what we call management trainings in the United States. That's the goal for the past 30 years. We just celebrated actually 29 years, like a week ago. So I say hi to everyone from HRC. And yeah, HRC has been, a leading agency for supporting, young graduates to first explore a country, an amazing country like the United States, where a lot of hotel brands, all started. So it's a privilege, to work for HRC International with such an amazing purpose of development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing to do, trying to help young talent to actually find their feet and find their mission. I had a very cool podcast. I was a guest of a podcast called 50 Shades of Hospitality, and they talk to young talents as well. So it was great to be part and trying to share what we're trying to do as well here. And thank you. Congratulations for what you do, because that's what we need. We need more people like you helping young talent to get their feet and understand what they can help, how they can help hospitality. And what we can do now is try to help the hoteliers here to understand on what these talents, what these young minds are looking for, what type of environment they can offer. And let's try to see if we can figure out the best way that they can build their recruiting strategies and build a better recruiting. But I will start with a very direct question, and it's, why is it so hard to find hospitality workers right now?
Well, I mean, I would say right now, I think it has been always, and I mean, we hear many facts, that, well, COVID, obviously we can blame COVID, for ages now, that technically a lot of workers, from the hospitality industry left and moved to other industries and so on. That's maybe one of the factors, but I would say not the main factor. Why is it so hard to find hospitality workers? Well, again, it depends, I would say, how you look for them. Okay, and I think this is also what we're going to talk later. You need to obviously understand that finding workers in the hospitality industry, you cannot technically anymore look for them or search for them the same way we did it, like at the right beginning. Okay, as you can hear from my voice, hospitality is all about passion, and this is a very passionate, field, and I think it becomes hard to recruit hospitality workers when technically you as an employer, okay, you're not able, to send that message across to those young or other, or more senior hospitality leaders that, yeah, you breathe, that passion and that. So I think this is what is hard, why it's so hard. Okay, I mean, there is plenty of other factors. We can talk about that during years. Okay, I mean, but I agree. I mean, it can be the fact that, okay, we always heard, that hospitality is not a well, recognized industry for earning good wages. Okay, that's true, but I don't fully agree with that. Okay, I know some people in the hotel industry and that are earning, some very decent money. Okay, and so on. Working conditions, I would say that's maybe a big one. Okay, working conditions with that famous, trend of from anyone, oh, I want a better, work-life balance, okay, and so on. So it's true that work conditions, they have to technically change as well, and they have to change in the different areas of the business, okay. Also, in the culinary world where I come from, okay, there is a big switch, that needs to be made, in this world of culinary, how, obviously staff are, I don't like this word, treated, in the kitchen, and so on. And but this is a long story again, but we can see a lot of efforts, to make, even people going into the culinary sector enjoying what they should be doing. Seasonality, well, I mean, there always been, winter, summer seasons, and so on. I think at any age of your life, you enjoy, working in seasonal resorts. And then after you stop because you start to have, wife, kids, and so on, you want to buy a house. So technically moving from summer to winter to a different place, becomes quite, I would say, time consuming and tiring. So again, hard, I would say. I think it's not only about hospitality, it's I think about any sectors today. We know we are lacking, in terms of, simply workforces. Okay. I mean, this is an evidence.
You said something I think that connect everything there, because you said in the beginning about the passion and about understanding why they are hiring, who they are hiring. And then when you come to the working conditions, when you come to the wages, and I think that this is really connected. I think that once that employer understand their own purpose and understand their mission and their values, it's easier for them to create an environment that's more appealing for the younger generation or for young talent. Is that something that happens, or am I getting everything wrong here?
No. You're right. Hiring with a sense of purpose, and we can talk about that, a bit more in depth when it comes to the brand aspect, okay, of any companies in hospitality. And it's not only about the hotel chains, but I think, and we are talking about local hotels, all businesses have started, from somewhere, okay? They have started from somewhere, from a certain, history, okay? I mean, every hotels have a history, or otherwise, I mean, you must be very wrong if you open an hotel with technically just being as a box, okay? There must be a sense of purpose and a history behind it. And I think, you have to focus on that history, and you have to focus on giving to your staff that sense of purpose. And I would say even I will go a bit more beyond, and I'm going to drop a name, from a very famous speaker that I'm sure you know of, is our dear friend, Simon Sinek, and so on, and talking about the why. Okay. And there is only few companies that technically have their own why. Okay. And I've started the business from that why. Okay. And I'm not saying it's a mistake. I'm just saying, it's super hard to find that why. Okay. And, but until you don't have that, it's really hard to send to your staff or even to your customers, a sense of, purpose, a sense of experience when it comes to customer service. So, but for me, it should be starting from there, from that famous why.
It's like baking a cake without a recipe, right? You know the ingredient, but what you come out of it, we don't know. You're saying like I have start with why just behind me here, right? It's one of the books I carry with me.
Here we go.
So, what would be like the biggest challenges in hospitality recruitment besides that purpose?
I would say, well, we talk later on about the working conditions. I think that's what a lot of people care those days. They are willing, to give, legs and arms, to the customers, and so on. But they want to feel that they are well treated also by their employer, and so on. And it all starts from there, because if you technically don't support your staff in that mission of finding, the why, or finding the purpose of the company that you work for, which, by the way, should come, from the top. Okay. I mean, we're going to talk for sure about leadership, at some point, but this is very important, that it should come from the top as the leaders to make, their staff on the technical aspect, having, the free time and when they are engaged in the hotel, because it's a tough work. Well, to have really a sense of belonging and working as a team also. Okay. It's not a lonely work. Okay. You work with guests, but we can only do it as a team. That's for sure.
And like when you're saying that, I sense that you have some information from candidates, right? Because you are in touch with them when you're looking for a space to fit them in that they would fit. What are the main questions that they have about the companies that normally are presented to them?
Well, the main question, and it's funny enough, it's not even about the money. The question is really, again, I go back to that word, what is the purpose for me to work in your company? And what also, in the second step, what also, my chances for me to grow with you? Okay, people want to grow. Okay, they want to grow in terms of learning, in terms of positioning themselves within the company, but they don't want anything static. Okay, so that's I would say one of the main question, and that's why with HRC, with that purpose of development, which is the aim of any placements that we go for. Well, it fulfills technically any candidates when you talk to them that you are not going to only to pay them wages. You're not going to embark them into history or in terms of values from the company, but you will care enough to develop themselves. Okay. And development goes in many, many ways. Okay. It's not only developing someone with hard skills, okay, to do better bed or to do a better, checking or better do a cooking recipe. It can be anything. Okay. But for that's where I said it must come from the leadership. It must come from the top and from every head of departments to open up, listen carefully. We listen very well to our guests. Okay. We should be listening very well to our staff as well.
Yes.
Okay. So, and listening their voice. Okay. Because any people development can be different from a person to another.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that, because I sense that not only by what you're saying is that they want to learn and have a career progression, of course, but probably developing as human beings as well, right?
Employees want, be treated the same way, and they want having the company having the same care, as the same level of caring they extend to their guests. Okay, so hotels were technically, or businesses where guests are complaining on TripAdvisor and so on about the welcoming and so on and so on. Well, it comes from somewhere, okay? And I think that's where technically the leadership of a company should be saying, okay, wow, if the customer complain, well, there is something wrong. I mean, but it's harder to say than doing it because sometimes as a leader or as a manager, you think you're doing things right, okay? But sometimes by having customers' feedback, you realize that, okay, I need to adjust or I need maybe to listen more. That's it.
And if we come back then to the independent hotels, because as you said, like most of the candidates, they're looking for opportunities to grow, opportunities to learn, but also a career. And when we come to the independent hotels, they are limited on that growth, right? Because sometimes they have some positions, they are filled. People are there for 20, 15, 30 years sometimes. The leadership sometimes is a family business owned and there is not much space to grow. So how can these independent hotels improve or have the best ways to recruit talent?
Well, I mean, independent hotels, which I agree, may have, limited maybe progression, for staff. I think it should all start, with honesty, okay? And again, yes, if you're limited in keeping, or making your staff growing, within the ladder of the responsibilities in the company, well, I mean, you shouldn't be first afraid of losing your staff. Okay, I mean, that's one thing, but there is maybe other ways, to keep your staff, longer in the company, but we can talk about that later on. But how to recruit better? I would say also to engage more the inner staff in the company, the one that you can count on, also to be part of the recruitment process, okay? Even giving them the opportunity to talk about the business around themselves. I mean, a happy employee will talk about his company even during his free time, okay? So it starts from there, okay, the branding. So I think by giving the voice to almost everyone, okay, and that obviously depends on the leadership of the hotel, but giving the voice to your staff and giving them also the chance to participate in recruiting and not just being a number, in a hotel. I think this is, key, and it's one of the solutions. But there is plenty other ways, to attract, talents. That's by using your inner forces within the hotel. But I think, it should start from there before even putting any advertisements on different websites, and so on and so on. You should ask your staff or even ask yourself, okay, does my staff can play a sort of ambassador role, by, technically attracting, more talents, to my property.
Now that you use the word that I was even looking for, that was ambassadors, right? Like creating an environment for your staff where they become ambassadors of your brand. And that environment is all connected to really the employee experience, right? Like how they feel in the company and the whole process. I just had a conversation before, someone saying that the employment doesn't start in the first day of employment, that the employment starts on the interview. I would even go further, and I think that the employment experience, the employee experience, starts when they are applying to get an interview. Yes, there's a whole journey that I would think through. So how to improve that candidate experience in hospitality recruiting?
Well, I think recruiting, if I take an hotel, okay, I think the best way to get on with the recruitment, and considering that you always have to recruit in a hotel, okay? I mean, like always, or in a restaurant, there is always someone going, leaving, and so on and so on. I think it would simply to have an open door policy, okay? An open door policy. I mean, I saw recently the brand Hyatt, that have started again, their journey on having hotels in the regions, and so on, to open up their doors, to have potential employees coming and trying it out, okay, and so on. I think that that I think it's a smart way to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I mean, some companies, that they have, that slogan, come as you are. Okay. Well, that's maybe a bit too much. Okay. I mean, because at the end, but it's a way to, and I understand what they're thinking by saying that, like it's having an open door policy, come, okay, and we will make you, being part not only about a family but of a home almost, so yeah.
That's beautiful. And when it comes to employee experience, like when they start working, what are the main elements that you think that can define a good experience for a new employee?
What I think a good experience first is when technically everything has been done through the recruitment. Okay, I think that any candidate should have, and especially when it comes to independent hotels, and so on, which independent hotels sometimes can be small hotels, okay, in majority, okay, and not always, but then that the interview process that doesn't also rely on maybe the owner or the HR person, but all those people. I mean, like, even though it may be like 1 or 2 or 3 rounds of interviews, but I think that even from the top, from the GM, should be involved. Okay, that's for me, I think, very, very important. Involved. I mean, yeah, when you're a general manager, maybe you don't have time, or even the legitimacy, to have an interview an half an hour, with intimidating someone, who's, very young and so on and so on. But just being there as a casual conversation, I think that's important. That shows and create leadership. So these, I think, the main experience will be also for every hotels, and unfortunately I see that most in chain hotels, to have what we call orientation program, integration programs, okay, where this is, I think, the momentum when it comes to welcoming an employee for the first day and for the first months, that candidate, beyond working and assigned to specific tasks because he has been employed and for doing specific tasks, to create a journey that makes him, like meeting up with the rest of from the staff. And it doesn't have to be, some companies do like maybe half a day, so someone can experience the job from the other. Doesn't have to go that far, It can be also simply creating that momentum and community within the hotel. So that induction month is crucial. Okay, really, the welcoming is really, really crucial, because if you sweat, for recruiting, and you think, that as soon the person has signed the contract, then after, it's gonna roll by itself, well, you will sweat again, and too much, because the turnover will take place. As simple as that. This is a crucial moment, this induction moment.
And now you touch some points that I'm very passionate but very curious about, because the induction moment, as you said, this induction month, it's the first experience that the new employees having with the new colleagues and with the superiors, the leadership team. So it's really important to have that feeling of, yes, I belong here, I am welcomed by the team, right? So when it comes to the mistakes that the hotels make, what are the main mistakes that they make that break this bond with their employees?
Well, I think it goes. I think the main is, I think, when, because we start from where we said at the beginning that there is a lack of simply forces, in the business. So technically, a lot of hotels and businesses worked understaffed. Okay, that's where it's difficult and dangerous, because and I'm not blaming any of those businesses, because everybody wants to have enough staff, to make their guests, satisfied, and also having their staff, not being pressurized, like lemons and so on. And I think this is when it comes, that's what makes, I think, someone leaving rapidly, a business, is if they feel not that they are not supported, but simply that they are simply not enough to do the job. Okay, and we see that in many ways. Okay, many times you've been to a restaurant. Okay, I mean, and you have 2 waiters or chef de rang, for a room of 60 covers and so on. And it's simply impossible. It's simply impossible to give the right level of service. Okay, impossible.
No, it's and when you say that, I'm from the kitchen as well, right? So I can, it just gives me like goosebumps to remember on the understaffed work. I used to work in a kitchen that when I got hired, we were 17 chefs working a Saturday night. It was a 500-seat restaurant. By the time that I left, we were 9 doing the same type of job, right? So it's just like, of course, we leave because we burn out. There is no way not to feel the pressure, even if you are beginner and you don't have the responsibility of leading others. You feel the pressure of being overworked and of having more responsibilities that you were prepared for. So yes, I'm totally with you here. That is a very dangerous path. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a little bit about the culture of hospitality that working under pressure is a thing. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, like, accepting the pressure, I mean, is part of the deal. Okay, but again, honestly, I don't know any businesses or any jobs where you don't work under pressure. I mean, honestly, in those days, I don't think there is any. Okay, if there is any one, please send me a secret note and I will apply. But honestly, no, I don't think so. But what I think, makes you survive in with that pressure, or at least accepting the pressure, is when you are fully passionate. But again, that's also dangerous because that's not a recipe. It can be also, to your death. Because being passionate and giving arms and legs to a business where there is not enough staff and so on, of course, you're going to kill yourself. Okay, but at the end of the day, as I like always to say, it's hospitality is technically the best way to find, and the best way to find yourself in hospitality is to lose yourself in the service of others. Okay, and it's a very easy word to say. Mahatma Gandhi was saying that. Okay, but when you are in that state of mind, it can be extremely dangerous, because when you are too much service oriented, that's where technically the burnout can come, and especially when you are understaffed.
Love that idea. And when we've been speaking about passion, being about a mission and purpose here, so is it important to build an employer brand in hospitality?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would say even beyond brands. I'm not going to repeat again that why, but the brand, can only be built, okay, based first people, okay, and so on, and then potentially on the building itself, okay. But you build, before a brand, you build a history, okay. You build, something that has a sense of purpose, okay. So you can call your brand whatever name and so on. First, if you call that brand a specific name, you have to explain why. Okay, you have to explain why. I go back again to that why. I didn't want to, but it's very important. It's very important. Okay, every hotels, even independent ones, the successful ones, they have created that history, or at least they start from a point of history. Okay, we are storytellers. Okay, if a customer come to your hotel, except for different purpose, businesses, so you just need a roof to sleep or whatsoever. But when it comes to leisure, okay, and so on, people want to hear the story, okay? They want to know, okay, why they go to that hotel named that, and so on and so on. So it's all about history, because I strongly believe it's part of the customer experience, okay? I mean, people want to hear stories, okay, real ones.
And I have a good friend of mine, and shout out for him, John Carpenter, and he posts a lot on LinkedIn about the employer brand, about how important it is, the image as an employer for the candidates when they are deciding the company. How important is that for young talent?
Like, you mean the people being actually the brand themselves, or
yeah, like as an employer brand is their own brand of how people feel inside my company. How you know how companies like to show their values, show their mission, and include the people that they want to work for, not only for the marketing purpose, as we're saying about the story, but how the employees will feel to work with me. And when I have this discussion here around Prague with the people that I know here, they think that's like, nah, that's not important. People just want to get paid on time and to have their holidays. So, different mindsets from here and there. So the question is, how important is that employer brand in the way that are the candidates looking for that connection, extra connection with the employer?
Yeah, employer branding, I would say, when it comes up and back to recruitment, the employer branding again starts from the people. And I love companies, regardless which ones, that make or at least highlight or show their staff, okay, in terms of achievements, and so on. I mean, we always see sometimes pictures, like, I mean, the employee of the month, and so on and so on. And that's a start, okay? And that's a start. And I think, yeah, to create your company with a good employer branding as being an employer of choice, okay, then technically, that's what I said prior, you need to let the voice to your employees, not only being part of, the interview, but also expressing themselves naturally on a regular basis under a good, obviously, structure and marketing approach to, yeah, okay, tell the world, okay, and we know how to tell the world now with social medias and so on and so on, and I think it's a nice way. It's a nice way to, yeah, first to continue to engage your staff in the company and also to open up to others. I think it's you don't work for a hotel or a business or a restaurant and so on because of the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, you work in that place, you're gonna give again arms and legs because you know that there is a strong team spirit, okay, and that there is a strong sense of values, and you know that people are proud, to work for that company, and you want to join them and being part of that pride.
Yes, I love that. And Matthieu, what are the benefits actually using a recruiting agency for hospitality rather than just posting a job out there?
You mean using me? No.
I had a tough one here at once.
Using a recruitment agency has obviously advantages in terms of recruitment takes a lot of time. Okay, it takes a lot of time. So a lot of people that think, well, you're maybe, too expensive, in terms of your fees, and so on. But if you do the math, together, okay, and so on, no, it's not that expensive. But the benefits are that sometimes the agency will be able to actually tell that story that the hotel is actually not able to tell, okay, to the other candidates. So, or at least to understand a bit more what's behind it. And so using a recruitment agency, I think, can help also the employer branding for sure, because as the recruitment agency would like to place someone, because it's a business, okay, some of them will tell that nice story, okay? So it's a good way as well to position it yourself as a brand on the market, as a good employer to use a recruitment agency, for sure. The other benefits, I would say, when you have in front of you recruiters that are passionate about the business, okay, and not recruiting for the sake of recruiting, okay, that's also, a huge benefit, because you're talking to specialists, okay, you're talking to people that can give you advice, okay, can give you guidance, all right, and so on. They are not just there to rob you, okay, because they are placing someone, they are now paid a fee and that's it, okay, no. So there is tons of other benefits, but I would say the main one is, sometimes when you are busy with the operation of a business, recruiting takes a lot of time. And again, through agencies, you have access to a network of candidates that they may not have, or won't have the time to build. Recruitment is a job. It's
Yes,
not just, a hobby, I mean, it's the same, as when you are an executive chef and so on. You technically express yourself as an artist, okay? And as a professional, recruitment also is a job. It's not like, not everybody can recruit. I'm honest with you.
Yeah, no, and definitely what I see is that, as you said, general managers or managers themselves, just they are overwhelmed by their own tasks and maybe not putting that enough time and enough love in the recruitment, because it's just something else that they need to do on top of everything else, something that they're probably tired of doing so, and end up getting cross messages and end up just choosing any candidate in the end of the day and losing a whole process and having to restart again. So I see that there are many challenges that the general manager end up facing because trying to take recruiting on their own. So I'm totally with you. If we move a little bit to the future now, because that's where a lot of people want to say, because they would say, but now we have AI to help me recruiting, right? But let's just talk about what are the emerging trends in hospitality recruitment now.
Well, indeed, technology, and I'm the first one using it, okay? I mean, for sure, technology, and we use them, okay? I mean, to ease certain, aspect of the recruitment, like as writing advertisements, and so on and so on. But the hospitality trend, the companies that technically are going to be able to, as I said at the beginning, because it's like a circle, the ones that will care for the development of people within that industry, okay? The trend also for any companies, as we know that there is a certain generation of people that are going to retire soon, okay? So some companies are already working on the succession planning, some better than some others, okay, and so on. But it's very important that we embark better, those young generation, and so on. And I think the trend in hospitality recruitment is going to be who will be able to not only seduce, but I would say give a sense of purpose and a sense of passion for the hospitality to the youth, to the new generation. Because there is, and we know, less and less candidates in certain countries, I don't want to put that generalist, who wants to study hospitality, okay? And I think, companies or the trend in recruitment will be the ones that care enough to give their time in making that new generation loving it again and coming, into the business. So that would say that's the emerging trend for me in hospitality recruitment. Companies that will go in that path, okay? Now, after, as we said, I would love to have more and more technology, to support, the recruitment. But in hospitality, it's too much about human, okay? I mean, with all the love I have for technology and everything, there is a sense of humanity, in not only in recruitment, but even more in hospitality recruitment that, for me, I don't think, will ever disappear, especially, for example, in the world of luxury, okay? I mean, that's what, guests, are ready to pay, thousands of bucks, to be in a hotel, not because of AI, okay? I mean, they won't be satisfied by that, okay? Maybe for a period of time, but not for too long, okay? So, as I said, hospitality recruitment, there is, either better technology to ease, not to replace, okay, the human approach to recruitment, but to ease certain technical aspect of the recruitment. And the emerging trend, I would say, if we want our hospitality industry to survive, will be technically to have companies focusing on youth and young graduates, recruitment, and even participating, to the educational piece, okay? I think that's how also you will embark, people, if professionals take part of the learning journey of a young graduates or future, hospitality talent. We don't have answers to everything, but, at least trying it or having, this feeling of passing on the torch, okay, and so on. I think it's really important. But that's very important for schools and businesses, to get more together. They are doing it, I'm not saying they're not doing it, but there is still much more that can be done.
Let's embrace lifelong learning and bring that as a must in the hotel industry, right? Let's get to our last question here. We have shortened time, but so let's get to our last question. And a little disclaimer here, because this is more a brainstorm, this is more an exercise. I'm not trying to predict anything here. So as I say, look, don't put your money on what you hear here, but learn what we're saying and listen to it. Take that as a brainstorm, not as we are giving you the pathway. But when it comes to skills and competencies that we are in a transitional period right now. Everything is changing in every single industry, and hospitality is no different. So if we think forward the next 5 years or so, what are the main competencies and skills that you think that will be important for talent, for young candidates to be developing, and for hotel managers to know that they probably should start thinking on how can I develop these skills for the future of hospitality?
Yeah. As we are looking at more and more experiential tourism, experiential, hospitality, and again, because we are a human business, I think it's nothing new. I think it's one of the basic of hospitality and service is a very specific skill that technically for me also in break, all the other skills is emotional intelligence. Okay. Emotional intelligence, and you can develop that muscle, okay, only through the years, okay, and so on. And you can face that by only technically meeting people, okay, listening carefully to those people, regardless if they are staff or guests or shareholders, and so on. Because that's a muscle that can be strong only if you give him food. And for that, you need to face a lot of different people. You need to be obviously very curious. You need to be aware that emotional intelligence is also led by what we call Janet, like a general, culture, and so on. You have to. So I think, that's the main skill and always be, the main skill for hospitality and exceptional customer service, regardless if it's for the top luxury industry or more, for, I would say lower range of businesses. It all starts from there. You need to have staff that are equipped, with that emotional intelligence, which obviously embed, humility, listening. And then when you bring on, that emotional intelligence, like bring it up like a mayonnaise, then that also lead to leadership. Okay. Someone who's a good leader is someone who has extraordinary level of emotional intelligence, someone that can listen, detect, and then obviously even anticipate, the needs of the guest and the staff and so on. So that's for me, I would say, and always been, the master skill, to adopt. But it's a life learning, okay? It's a lifelong learning process, to build that muscle of emotional intelligence.
I absolutely loved your answer, because when we think about the future and with all the technological disruptions that we are having, definitely emotional intelligence is going to be one of the most important skills that you have for life, regardless of the industry, regardless where you are working. Having the ability to understand what you feel and control that and being able to respond to situation accordingly is a skill. Yep. I'm totally behind with you that. And funny thing is that we recorded actually a podcast about emotional intelligence in hospitality with our friend Nadia Tien and Vlatka, that someone here from Czech. So a little shameless plug here to everyone listen to this episode. If you get curious about emotional intelligence, please just type emotional intelligence in our search and you'll find a very cool episode about that actually.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Matthieu, thank you so much for chatting with us here and sharing all this knowledge. I absolutely love this chat. How can our audience get in touch with you and learn more about you and maybe find some positions available?
Yeah, I mean, the best way, well, to reach me out, I mean, I'm sure you will be able to share my contact details, but otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn, and so on. I'm on different platforms and so on. But yeah, the only message, will be like, yeah, don't, if you want to reach me out, reach me out, but let's also take the time to talk, the same way as we're doing now. Okay, we won't record any podcast, and so on, but I appreciate people that send me an invitation on LinkedIn and so on. But what I appreciate the most are the ones, that technically, yeah, want to interact. Okay. And because obviously, okay, time is precious, but we should be taking more time, to discuss, between each others.
Perfect. Matthieu, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate once again. That was masterclass here. I'm very grateful for your time, very grateful for your knowledge here. And thank you very much. And I hope to be able to see you soon.